Good morning, Year 7. So you should be listening to this video on Monday, the 18th of January. I cannot give you a live lesson on Monday because that's the day when I'm in school on the rota to look after the students who need to be in school. So that's the one day a week when I go in school, so I can't run a live lesson at the same time. So what you're going to be doing in this lesson is you're going to complete a worksheet on solving and finding angles when the problem includes triangles. We've started to look at some questions at the end of the lesson on Thursday, the live lesson on Thursday, but we didn't have time to do many. So I'd said, let's stop here and you'll do it in another lesson. But I don't want to just leave you on your own without any help to do those. So there are 3 slides here where I'm going to be doing a few questions in increasingly difficult order. And then afterwards you will have a page of questions to do on your own, but hopefully that will be enough information for you to do it. So on this first slide here, it's quite straightforward because you always have triangles, and actually every time you're given 2 out of the 3 angles. And because the important fact to know is that angles in a triangle always add up to 180. You can use this key fact for all of these questions. So question number 1, you've got an angle that's 34 and an angle that's 50, and you're missing the third angle. So what you can do here is to say, well, so far I've got 34 plus 50, which is 84 degrees. So A is what is left to go to 180. So it's 180 degrees. That's the angle. If you add the 3 angles in a triangle, you have 180. But you need to take away the 2 that you've already added up. You have already added up 84 degrees, and you're left with 96 degrees. And that's your first question done. Question number 2, very similar. You've got 2 angles out of 3. So what you can do here is to say, well, so far I have got 43 degrees plus 19 degrees, and that will be 62 degrees. And the angle that's missing, which is called B here, is going to be, well, 180 degrees. That's how many degrees I have into a triangle. If I add the 3 angles in a triangle, I always have 180. However, I've already counted 62 degrees for 2 angles. So if I want to find the missing angle, what's in B, I need to take away these 62 degrees. And that you can use your calculator, you can do it in your head as you wish, but this means you're left with 118 degrees. And for question C, it looks like you only have 1 angle, which is 27. However, the symbol here, the little square in the corner, has got an important signification. It means that the angle here is a right angle triangle. And, sorry, is a right angle. So you have a right angle triangle. And this means that this angle here, if it's a right angle, it's 90 degrees. And once you know that, you can work out that one angle is 90 degrees, the second angle is 27 degrees. So far, you've got 170 degrees in 2 out of the 3 angles. So if you want to find your third angle, which is C, then you need to start with 180 degrees, which is the total that you have for the 3 angles in the triangle, and you take away how much these 2 angles that you know add up to. 180, subtract, take away 117, and you're therefore left with 63 degrees. So this question should be quite straightforward because you're given 2 angles, you need to find a third one. So on this second set of questions, we're still working with a triangle, so we're still going to need the fact that angles in a triangle add up to 180, but this time we have special triangles. So the first triangle, we can see with the markers here that 2 sides are equal, and a triangle that has 2 equal sides is called an isosceles triangle, which is spelled isosceles. And try to memorize the spelling of this word. It's an important mathematical word. What do we know about isosceles triangles? So 2 sides have the same length, ends, two angles are equal. And in general, we call these angles base angle. We call these two equal angles base angles. So the first skill that you need to develop is to be able to spot which two angles are equal. And for this, it's not always the ones that are at the bottom or at the top. You have to know that it's the ones that are underneath the two equal sides. So at each end of the third side, the side that is not equal to the other two. And if it helps you, what you can do is from the markers of equal sides, you can actually use it to actually draw an arrow. And those are the two angles that are equal. So if the angle on the left-hand side is measures 67 degrees, then the angle on the right-hand side is the second base angle. It is also 67 degrees. And now you can use the same approach as on the previous questions. You know that in this triangle, two angles are 67 and 67 degrees. So these two angles together add up to 134 degrees. You can use your calculator if you want to do that. And therefore, how much is left for angle D? Well, angle D, it's 180 degrees. That's how many degrees you have in a triangle. But you have to take away this 134 degrees, which are the measurements of the remaining two angles. And what are you left with here? 46 degrees. So the angle here that is missing measures 46 degrees. Sorry. For question E, it's a little bit similar because you still have two angles that are the same. So you still have an isosceles triangle. Watch how to spell it. Triangle. And you need to watch which ones are the two base angles if it helps you, so you can extend the sides with little arrows to show you that the two angles that are the same are the angle on the left hand side and the angle on the right hand side. So it's important to see that 103 degrees, there's only one angle that's 103 degrees. So make sure you get that right. So this time you have two angles that are missing, but they have the same value. So what are you going to do here? Well, in total in the triangle, you have 180 degrees. And in one angle alone, the one at the top, you've already used up, if I may say, 103 degrees. So what's left then is 77 degrees, because it's 180 degrees and you take away the angle that you already know, which is 103. And this 77 degrees is shared, and it's shared equally by the remaining two angles. So how can you calculate how much one of these two angles is, how much E is? Well, you have 77 degrees left and you need to share it into two. So you're going to need to divide that by 2. You can use your calculator if you want, but this is 38.5 degrees. And that is your answer. The answer is not an integer. It's not a whole number. Remember, integer means a whole number. Well, so be it. It happens. You know, in mathematics, sometimes you're working with whole numbers, with integers, and sometimes you're not. And then the third question is actually very, very simple, because this time you don't have 2, but you have 3 sides that are equal. And these triangles, when you have 3 sides that are equal, are called equilateral triangle. Equilateral triangles. And what do we know about them? They have 3 sides equal in length. And therefore, you also have 3 angles are equal. So in that case, all 3 angles have the same measurements. So you know that in total you have 180 degrees, and you need to share it equally between 3 angles. So you're going to divide it by 3, and the result is 60 degrees. In an equilateral triangle, every angle it measures 60 degrees. And this is how you do the second selection of questions. If you're unsure, then go back to the start of the slide and just listen to it again. And finally, sometimes the question gets more complicated, but every time, I quite often say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you solve this sort of problem? Well, one bit at a time. So you're going to need to build up. So for example, on this first question, you need to find the angle that is here on the right hand side, the angle that's been called X. And you've got a triangle in the middle. You've got 331 on the left hand side. You've got 87. What are you going to do with all of that? How does it help find X? Well, if in doubt, just calculate what's missing here. What do you know? So on the left hand side, you can see that this is almost going round a point. So this angle on the left hand side measures 331 degrees. And what you should know is that what we say is angle around a point, which is basically doing a full turn, is 360 degrees. So you should know that if you might have done some 360s with your scooters in the park, or if you're dancing, or, and you know, there are lots of other situations. So this is something that actually you should know. Angles around a point add up to 360. So if all of that is already 331, then the inside here will be 360 take away 331. So that angle will be 29. So the angle on the left hand side here is 29 degrees. What could you do next? Well, you've got another angle at the bottom on the right here, which is 87 degrees. And if you imagine that you ignore the 29, you ignore the line at the top, you just look at this line here at the bottom, then that's a straight line. So if this angle here on the right is 87 degrees, then the angles on the left will be 180 minus 87. So that angle here will therefore be 93 degrees, because it's 180 degrees, and it's not because it's a triangle, it's because that area here alone, independent from the rest, is a straight line. So now that you have the angle 29 degrees on the left, the angles 93 degrees on the right, then we are going to be able to work within the triangle. And to make it more visible, I'm going to change color. So now, if we consider that shape here, then we have a triangle. We have a triangle with one angle being 93 and the other angle being 29. And you're going to need to calculate what's missing. Now, you might be saying, wow, how am I meant to know to do that? And to be honest, obviously it's a bit experience, but the big thing is at the start of a question is because there's nothing else to do. So even if you're not sure whether it's going to take you somewhere, then you're taking that road and you'll see what happens. So for the angle here in the red triangle, I've got one angle which is 29 degrees. I've got another angle which is 93 degrees. So that will give me 122 degrees. So what's left in my triangle is 180 degrees, to which you're taking away 122 degrees. And that gives you 58 degrees. And hopefully I'm doing the calculation right. 180 take away 122 is going to be your 58 degrees. And that's your, so that's this angle where there was a question mark, that was 58 degrees. And are we done? No, we're still not done. So I'm going to change color a third time to show the final step. So what could I do now? Well, what I could do now is ignore the triangle. It served its purpose and just focus on this area. Because I have angles on a straight line again here. Angles on a straight line. And they add up to 180. So if I want to know how much x is, then what do I have to do? 180 minus 58 degrees. And that will give me 122 degrees. And this time I have calculated angle x. So I needed a lot of steps here. I needed to show a lot of knowledge. I needed to know angles around a point. I needed to know angles on a straight line to calculate this 93. I needed then to use that angles in a triangle add up to 180. And finally, I had to use the angle on a straight line add up to 180 a second time. So there are 4 steps in this question. Quite a tricky question. Now, if you're brave, have a go at the question on the right-hand side. If you actually find it a little bit too much, this is really pushing understanding, but I know that you can actually work it through. You know, have a go. Otherwise, if you find it too scary, feel free to skip it. What I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to put the answer on the next slides with explanation, so you can just look at it once you have had a go. So hopefully with these recorded explanations, you're now ready to start having a go at some of these questions on your own. And actually one of the ones that we have done on the previous slides is on this page. So you should be able to use this for one of the questions here. I'm not telling you which one, it's easy enough to spot. Now, what you need to do is to have a proper go on your own at doing these questions. So you can use this sheet, or you can use the sheet on which has been stored on the Google Classroom. But what you need to do is to do your working, and then you either take a photo of your working with your answers and you send it back to attached to the task, send it back to me, or you actually put the answers directly on the Google documents that I have posted against this task. But one of the two, but one thing is certain is give it a proper go. You know, make sure that you give it a proper go. Now, if some of you feel brave enough, there's actually even an extension at the end of this slide pack, because some of you are really good now with, well, I could take away the now, are very good with the angle calculations. So stretch yourself, have a shot. And I hope you found this useful. We'll have a live lesson on Wednesday. Keep working hard, guys. Well done, and really well done for staying with it. Have a good day.